Girlfriend secretly exposed our son to my Ab-sive parents, trust shattered, relationship on the brink, unsure how to proceed. I didn't have an easy time growing up. My childhood was so messed up that, for my own sanity, I just shoved those memories into a metal box and locked it up tight. The day I turned old enough to leave, I bolted. I cut my parents out completely, went no contact, and never looked back. There's not just one reason I made that decision, there are several, and every single one of them was enough. When I told my girlfriend that I didn't even want to tell my parents about their grandson, she seemed to understand. I made it clear, I don't want my son anywhere near those people, I don't want my girlfriend around them, and above all, I would never leave any child, especially my own, alone with them. My girlfriend doesn't know the specifics of what my father did to me and my sister, but I've always felt she didn't need to know the grim details in order to respect my boundaries. Then, yesterday, my sister texted me a photo of our parents' dog. In the background, there were my son's shoes. My mom had put the picture up on Facebook, thinking nothing of it. I have her blocked, of course, but my sister saw the photo. She recognized the shoes right away and she was as troubled as I was, mainly because it was weird enough that there was a kid over it all. My girlfriend and I both work, she's only part-time, but we always have someone to watch our son. It's either my sister or her family. There was never any reason she needed to take our little boy over to my parents. This wasn't about convenience, this was a choice she made, and it was a decision she should have made with me. I sat down and talked to my son, and it turns out he's been over there several times, completely unsupervised, alone with my father. As far as he told me, nothing happened, but my head was spinning and I was furious. The second my girlfriend walked through the door, I confronted her. It exploded into a full-blown fight. She left the house crying and went straight to her parents. Not long after, her mother showed up to take my son with her, but I refused. That led to another argument, this time with her mom. Later, my girlfriend texted and asked if we could talk today. I know I can't, and don't want to, keep my son from her, but I'm still boiling with anger and hurt. I feel so betrayed. Honestly, I'm ready to break up over this. But my son heard the whole thing, and now he's upset and anxious. I don't know how to handle any of this, and I feel completely lost as to what to do next. Keeping me out of this, to her, it was just a visit. To me, it was months of betrayal. Even after I explained some of the horrors of my childhood, she pushed back, suggesting supervised visits since my father was ill and everyone deserves a chance to know their grandparents. I can't bear the thought of my son being anywhere near my parents, and yet she acts like I'm just being unreasonable. She seems reluctant to even formally block visitation rights, though I'd need her agreement or a court case to do it. I tried to make her understand this isn't just about the danger. It's about hiding this from me, sneaking around 4 months with our son in tow. If she can do this, what else would she ever be capable of? And then, she actually told my son to keep the visit secret. That's what abusers say, keep quiet, keep the secret. She apologized, called it an honest mistake, said I was blowing this out of proportion. Her parents are on her side, too. She rubbed it in that I shouldn't be angry at her mother, and I should appreciate what they've done for us over the years. Sure, I appreciate them, but that doesn't mean they get to override my role as a parent, or get this involved in my family's boundaries. I can't shake this sense that none of them, her parents, take me seriously or trust my judgment. The mother of my child is actively working against me and it's crushing. It's rage and despair and powerlessness all at once. When I talked to my son about these visits, I was terrified, truly terrified, and it's like she can't even begin to imagine what that's like. Maybe it's my fault for not telling her everything, for not letting her in, but I never believed she would do this to me. My past, all that darkness, never really affected me, or so I thought. I never felt like she needed to know all the details. Even now, I'm not sure anything's really resolved. I see why she made the choices she made, but I don't feel like she understands my pain in all of this. The conversation ended with her bringing up her mother, which made me angry again. I know I shouldn't raise my voice, but how could I not? I laid myself bare and I still wasn't being taken seriously. We both admitted it would take a lot of work to fix this, maybe work neither of us is willing or able to put in. I've deeply upset her, scared our son, angered her family. If I'm being honest with myself, all feelings for her vanished the moment I found out. That's where I'm stuck. Maybe we can make it work for our son's sake, but I won't have him grow up in misery, seeing his parents fight. If it doesn't work, I'll need a lawyer. I grew up fast, we started dating so young, had our son so young. Maybe I never thought about the future, about staying together forever. Part of me stayed because I lived with her family, and then because I didn't want to be yet another absent, deadbeat dad, the kind of father I swore I'd never be. I loved her, once. Maybe I still do, deep down. But now everything feels shattered. My son and I have talked a lot lately. I made sure he understands what's okay when it comes to touch, or at least I hope he really does. So far, he says nothing bad has happened and he hasn't seen anything weird. The one thing that did get to him, our fight. He knows we're both sad. I just hope our talks helped him and that my girlfriend finds a way to talk to him about it, too. Maybe we'll sit him down together, explain things. I'll have to talk to her about that. So, my girlfriend went behind my back starting last September after my mother reached out, spun her a story about my sick father, and gradually got comfortable leaving our son with him. She says she kept me out because I'd say no, and she wanted to give my parents a chance. She thought maybe she could fix a broken relationship, or at least mend some bridges. Now she's talking about our son's right to know his grandparents, but she's still skeptical about cutting off all visitation. I doubt her and I are ever going to see eye to eye. I don't think she truly grasps the dangers or recognize how easily abuse can be hidden by appearances. Her parents completely support her, backing her all the way. She apologized, they all think I'm overreacting. We agreed to work on things, but I have no idea if it'll mean anything. At least, so far, my son seems okay. I feel like I need to clarify, this is about trust, irreparable betrayal, and the primal drive to protect my son at all costs. I'm just a dad trying to keep my boy safe, and now, I'm questioning everything. When I moved out for good, I finally went no contact with my parents. That was it, no more pretending, no more visits, no more painful phone calls. Later, when my girlfriend became pregnant, we talked about the whole situation, and I told her straight, I didn't want my parents to even know they were going to be grandparents, and I certainly didn't want them anywhere near our child. She agreed without argument, and that was supposed to be the end of it. She knew enough about my childhood to understand. I made sure she knew about the unsafe conditions I grew up in, and the reality of my father, the violence, the alcoholism. She'd heard about some of the insane things my mother did over the years. She knew my sister struggled with PTSD, and she knew why my father had touched her. All these things, she knew. Her parents even knew most of it. And honestly, how could that not be enough? But then, I found out she'd been taking our son to see my parents behind my back. I lost it. I yelled at her and her mother, and I shouldn't have, but I just couldn't hold it together in that moment. It was impossible for me to stay calm when the person I trusted most refused to really listen to me about my own parents. That Thursday, we had another blow up. Emotions ran high, and eventually, I just shut down. I told her my father had abused me too. Even then, she looked at me and said, I don't see why we can't do supervised visits. I couldn't even make an argument. Logically, I get it, nothing could happen if someone else is there, but the thought makes my skin crawl. It feels like I'd be trafficking my own son, even if nothing physical happens, and I don't know how to make anyone understand, not even her. People say it's just an emotional response, and maybe it is. Maybe it's totally illogical, but I truly don't see how meeting those people could benefit my child. The thing is, I never told her every detail before because it wasn't necessary. I functioned, I could be intimate, I could work. My parents being monsters wasn't something that ate away at me every day. And beyond that, talking about it just hurts, and drags up all the shame and weird guilt my parents programmed into me. Trying to explain it to someone who just shrugs it off feels impossible. Things have cooled down between us now. Maybe it's finally sinking in for her, but she still tries to argue that nothing happened, that everything was fine. It's like she can't admit she got it wrong, not even to herself. She keeps saying my parents seem normal, their house is clean, the dog is taken care of, everything looking like the opposite of how I described it growing up. She acted like that proves something. I don't really believe she'd bring our son there again behind my back, but I can't be sure. We haven't talked about it since, maybe it's for the best, so our son doesn't see how bad things are right now between us. Still, I worry that he can sense it anyway. At this point, I think we're finished. I can't picture a future with her as my partner anymore. It terrifies me, the way she taught our son to lie to me and her parents told her it wasn't a big deal. I'm scared they'll twist this, turn me into the villain just because, honestly, I don't have a lot going for me on the custody front. She's got the support system, the family, the resources, the money for a good lawyer, and all that would let her drag out a legal fight if it came to that. But I know I need help, I need a lawyer, and as soon as I find one, I'll get the advice I need. I feel nothing for her now, not even anger. We can't stay together. I refuse to end up like my parents, and I won't let my son be around that kind of relationship. My next steps are clear: talk to a lawyer, start planning our separation, and do whatever is necessary to keep my parents away from my son. I'll make sure he sees a doctor, too. Maybe, if we're lucky, we'll be able to separate without too much fighting. Maybe we'll manage to co-parent well, for our son's sake. But no matter what, I'm taking every legal step to keep my parents away from him. That's non-negotiable. Update 2. Someone told me that my post was shared elsewhere, which I think led to a huge influx of people reaching out and commenting. I honestly got so overwhelmed, I just gave up on keeping up with everything. I'm not sure how many people will see this or if it'll be shared again, but at this point, I kinda hope it gets a little less attention. I truly appreciate all the help and advice I've received. I think I've read most of the comments, and a lot of what was said really resonated with me. In a way, it was good so many people saw my situation. Now that I finally had a little breathing room, I wanted to give another update. My son is all right. Thank God. I've been relentlessly calling doctors and therapists, trying to get someone to see us. Finally, one therapist, despite being fully booked, offered to do a quick assessment, even staying late just for us. She was a godsend, giving me a pack of resources and organizations to reach out to for further support. According to her, my son doesn't display any warning signs of abuse. The physician who works with court cases said the same thing. I can't describe the relief after all that stress. At least on this front, things seem okay for now. Of course, the past few weeks took a toll on my son, it's written all over him. But at least the rest is alright. The therapist recommended someone else who's a bit farther away, in case my son starts having trouble adjusting to us splitting up. So yeah, my girlfriend is now officially my ex. Honestly, I don't even want to get into all the shit that's happened these past weeks. This whole ordeal was just the final straw. Maybe it's just my perspective shifting after her betrayal, but looking back, I put up with her for way too long. How am I doing? Truthfully, I don't know. I'm still completely overwhelmed, and it started manifesting as physical symptoms of stress. That's of course not great, especially for my son, because he notices when I'm tired and sad. My motivation has taken a nosedive. I guess I'm really lucky to have someone else to take care of, because I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise. He's pretty much the only thing keeping me going right now. I worry he feels responsible for me or for the whole situation. He often asks if everything's okay, but we've been reading books about parents splitting up and about mental health. It seems to help him feel less anxious. I also have a lawyer now. We cobbled together a custody plan sort of. She moved back in with her parents, so at least we each have our own space. We went to a mediator and had some tough conversations about my childhood and everything that's gone down recently. Having someone else in the room, backing me up and using scientific language, apparently gave me some credibility. One crucial part of our custody agreement is that my parents are not allowed near my son. She actually agreed to this right away. She still refuses to admit she truly messed up, but I'm beyond caring at this point. I've made it very clear that I'll take this to court, and I'm fully prepared to go the official route to strip my parents of any rights. If they want a court fight, I'm ready to go public with their abuse even though I have no proof. If it comes to that, there are facilities where staff can monitor visits, and if my parents get visitation, I'll insist on that. Thankfully, it seems like my ex and I are heading for a relatively peaceful separation. Things were really tense with her behind closed doors right after we broke up, but it's settling down now. Neither of us wants to be hostile for our son's sake, and that's just not possible if either of us tries for full custody. I have no intention of fighting for full custody myself. I'm already so overwhelmed, and honestly, I'm scared things will only get worse as my son grows, especially as he gets closer to the age I was when my father's abuse escalated. My lawyer agrees this is the best route for now, but I'll be gathering evidence against her, just in case. Maybe I'm paranoid, but after everything, I think that's understandable. People have been incredibly kind, not just acquaintances, but even at work. When I last updated, I was at a pretty hopeless place, anxious for my son, on leave from work to deal with everything, and my finances hanging by a thread. My lawyer is working pro bono, and my bosses were supportive when I told them I needed leave for a family emergency. I'm going to reorganize my work schedule, but realistically, I probably won't be able to keep full-time hours for a while. When my son starts school, things might get easier, but for now, I'll have to put plans like repaying my ex's parents on hold. I'm also probably going to have to move, which is just another added stress. Things aren't rosy, but at least I feel less lost than before. I've lined up therapy for myself, too. I've always known I should, but kept putting it off for years. Maybe it looks good on paper, but honestly, above all, I need it, especially with all that's happened. I hope therapy finally helps me get this feeling of doom under control, and there's so much I need to address, particularly as I'm coming to terms with how damaging my relationship with my ex has been. So, that's where I'm at. I truly think this is the best way forward, the best possible outcome. My ex and I officially broke up, saw a mediator, put a custody agreement in place, and are working out a schedule. So far, things have been surprisingly peaceful, and the custody arrangement seems to be working. She's formally agreed not to take our son to my parents, it's in the agreement. I'm keeping records in case I ever need to defend myself or my son in court, and I'm doing everything I can to limit my parents' rights. My son is still stressed, but he seems okay according to 2 experts, there's no evidence of abuse. Me? I'm a lot more stressed and definitely not as okay, but I'm getting support and finally starting therapy. I don't know what's going to happen with my job, and moving is likely, but I remind myself that all of this will settle out eventually. I just need to hang on and get through this. As for my ex's parents, they knew I would get beaten as a kid, but never knew how bad it really was. They know my sister quit work due to her mental health, but I never told them about the sexual abuse. It's all just so unfortunate, but I'm still trying to adjust to everything, and I just hope it gets better from here. Her dad actually seemed fine with our breakup, he even came by to help her pack some things, and we had a casual conversation. His father was a soldier, and though we haven't talked about it much, I have a feeling he knows what it's like to grow up with a father like mine. Her mom, on the other hand, has been acting like I don't even exist. She's come by to pick up my son, and that's about it. I've seen her a few times since then, but she's been acting really cold. She barely greets me, sometimes she doesn't say a word. Even after I apologized for what happened last time, she still keeps her distance and seems completely shut off. I haven't talked to them about the sexual abuse. I don't know if my girlfriend has either, but for now, I honestly don't think I ever will. Just telling her, and then repeating the story to a bunch of doctors and lawyers, has completely worn me out. Right now, that's enough. Maybe I'll find the strength to bring it up if I have to, if they start meddling or pushing. I guess I'll have no choice, but until then, I just can't go through it all over again. Update 3. Things have been overwhelming, and I haven't had the energy to reply to everyone, but I think it's finally time to share where I am now. My father was hospitalized last September and passed away at the beginning of October. I've been wrestling with all kinds of emotions, especially because I didn't go to see him at the hospital or attend his funeral. My sister didn't go either. Our mother did reach out to us, but since then, she's been essentially absent. I'm not even sure where she is anymore. Last I heard, she was staying with her mother, who has dementia and can't be left alone. After my father died, things really took a turn. I struggled to keep up with everything. During the time, my ex and I tried to reconnect, but I soon realized it just wasn't going to work. I had so much to heal from, so much from my home life that I hadn't even begun to process, and as that happened, I started to really see what was going on in our relationship. We'd both been young, and honestly, her and her family were the fastest, simplest escape I could find. I ended up in almost the same situation all over again before I fully understood. Admitting that was tough. Over these past few months, my ex has been making choices I can't stand behind, breaking just about every agreement we'd made about custody. Now, with her new boyfriend planning a cross-country move and her apparently going with him, I can finally breathe a little. In a way, I'm relieved. It seems clear that she just wants to put the whole past behind her, including our son. I've started the process of filing for full custody. In a couple of months, they'll be gone, and she's agreed to give up both legal and physical custody, and pay child support. This whole thing hurts, more than I expect sometimes, and I know it'll take a toll on my son. But honestly, I think this is the best outcome I could hope for. She doesn't know how to choose partners who create a safe space for a child, and I'm so tired of fighting. I wish I could offer a happier update, but this is just how things are right now. My son is doing well, considering everything. My sister and I managed to move into a bigger place. He's made friends in the neighborhood, and therapy is helping him. There's still a lot of anger in him that we're working to process. He's become extremely picky with food, but from what I understand, that's pretty normal. The only thing I couldn't get him for Christmas was a dog. I'm hoping I'm getting him everything else he needs. I want to build a relationship where he feels safe, where he knows he can talk to me about anything. So far, in therapy and at home, nothing alarming has come up, but I'm always watching out for him, hoping to build the kind of trust he'll need, especially as he gets older. His last visit with his mom was on Christmas, but at least his relationship with her parents as grandparents remains somewhat positive. As for me, I guess I'm holding it together. With so much going on, I don't really have the luxury of processing much besides the stress. I did find a new job with flexible hours, and my sister and I are making things work until my son can start preschool. My sister and I have always been close, but lately our bond has gotten even stronger. It's clear that having a child around has actually helped her cope and improved her mental health too. I am deeply grateful for the support I have my sister, caring neighbors, our new landlady, and the kindness of both friends and strangers. Over the past few months, hearing encouragement from people who say they are proud of me for standing up for my son really made an impact. That support stays with me. At first, I wasn't going to talk about me and my ex trying to get back together, but I've decided to be honest about it. Therapy, along with learning more about how men experience and recover from abuse, and how little attention society gives to victims who don't fit a certain mold, has made me want to step forward. Even if my voice gets lost in all the noise, I feel like I can do something that matters, no matter how small. So, that's where things are. To anyone who's struggling or who's reached out, I hope you continue to heal. I wish everyone a peaceful and fulfilling 2026. Update 4. I thought the paperwork would be the final chapter: signatures, stamps, a judge reading out a decision, and then something like quiet. Instead, the day that was supposed to settle things knocked everything loose again. We had our hearing. My ex showed up with her boyfriend and a suitcase in the car. She signed, handed over her copy of the custody agreement, and told the judge she intended to relocate across the country within the month. The judge asked twice if she understood what she was agreeing to, if she'd been coerced, if she'd had legal counsel. She said yes, yes, yes. I got sole legal and physical custody, with a note that future contact from her would be at my discretion and must be planned in writing. She has to contribute child support starting next month. It was clean, almost sterile, and when it was over, she hugged our son in the hallway, crying and telling him to be good for daddy, and then she left. I watched her walk away, and all I felt was this weird emptiness, like grief that had been standing too long and gone stale. 2 days later, my phone rang from an unknown number, and it was a lawyer for my father's estate. He had a letter for me, handed over months after the funeral because of some clause my father had written. I said I didn't want it. He said it was mine either way. He mailed it. It sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days, a white rectangle daring me to open it. When I finally did, I had to sit back down. The handwriting was neat in a way I don't associate with him: slow, careful. He started by talking about the garden, the winter spinach, and then he slipped into this almost reasonable tone that made my skin crawl. He said he understood mistakes were made, that he'd sought forgiveness from God and hoped I'd someday let your boy meet his grandmother when the dust settles. Tucked into the last page was a photo of me at 5, holding the old dog, both of us in sunlight. It felt like a trap laid on good paper. I put it back in the envelope and I don't know what I'll do with it yet. My therapist says whatever I choose is right. I believe her, and I don't. The same week, my mother showed up at my son's preschool and tried to sign him out. She told the receptionist she was his grandmother and that I'd given permission, that it would be a nice surprise. I had already put a do not release note on file with the school, with copies of the custody order and a password protocol. The director stuck to it. They called me. I drove over, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, shaking in that old familiar way. My mother was in a lobby with a wrapped present and that smiling, generous face she uses like a tool. She tried to talk to me. I told her she wasn't allowed near him. She asked me to be reasonable and said he misses you, like she had any idea what my son misses. I didn't argue. I called the police and handed over the paperwork. The officer stayed while she left. I filed for a restraining order that afternoon. The judge signed a temporary one the next day. I added the order to the school file and to the pediatrician's office and to my front door in a folder behind the shoe rack where I can reach it in 2 seconds. I kept it together at the school and lost it in the car. My son was fine until bedtime, when he asked if I was still mad at Grandma. We had to go back to the basics: whose job it is to keep kids safe, who gets to pick him up, who's allowed to hug him. He's been waking up earlier again, and sometimes he wants the light on all night. We built a bed for it with a blanket and a flashlight and a stack of picture books. For it now, that's enough. My ex's mother came by a week later. She didn't knock, just waited on the stoop until I opened the door. She had a bag of my son's clothes and a couple of toys he'd left at her house around Christmas. She was still cool and formal, but she looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before. She apologized, not with a speech but in a short, strained way that made me think she'd been rehearsing it and didn't trust herself to say more. She said she hadn't understood, not really, and that she would respect my boundaries. She asked for a photo of my son to put on their fridge. I printed one while she waited and handed it to her. She didn't try to come inside. She told me she'd spoken to my mother when my mother first reached out to her right after my father died, and that she'd told her not to contact me or my son again. It didn't work, obviously, but I felt something give a little inside me. I don't know what our relationship will look like going forward, but at least we said the thing out loud. There was one good thing I didn't see coming. A neighbor of my parents, an older guy I barely remember, found my email somehow and told me that my mother had dropped their dog at the shelter. He'd recognized the dog from the obituary photos and thought I should know. I drove there after work with my son, and there he was, older, grayer, moving slow, what the same breed, the same eyes. My son fell in love inside 3 minutes. We brought him home that weekend. He sleeps by my son's bed most nights, and when my son has a nightmare, the dog just gets up and leans against him until he falls back asleep. It's something like peace, even if it came from a place that almost ruined me. I keep waiting to feel weird about it, but right now it just feels like we rescued each other. I changed my son's pickup password at school and added a second one only he and I know. I had his backpack embroidered with his first and middle name and left off the last. I went down to the records office with my sister to start the name change process for both of us. It took longer than I thought, more forms, more waiting rooms, more swearing under breath at staplers that don't work. When the clerk called our number, my sister squeezed my arm and I realized my hands were sweating. Signing my name with the knowledge that it might be the last times I write it that way felt heavier than I expected. When it goes through, we'll have a new last name, hers that she chose for herself years ago, the one she said made her feel like a person again. My son tried writing it on scrap paper at the table, his letters big and wobbly. He asked if that meant we were a team now. I said, we always were. I haven't heard from my ex since the day at court. She sent 2 voice notes the morning their car pulled out of her parents' driveway, one to me asking for a picture when we get the dog settled, and one to our son saying she loved him. He listened once and then asked me to play his dinosaur song instead. I don't know what that means yet. I'm not going to make it mean anything for him. The restraining order becomes permanent in a few weeks unless my mother contests it. Part of me hopes she doesn't show. Part of me wants her to, just have the record. My lawyer says it won't matter what I want when she decides. I've been sleeping with a letter from my father in a drawer in the kitchen between the spare batteries and the scissors, like it needs to be near practical things or it'll poison the room. I thought about burning it. I thought about mailing it back. I took it out once when my son was at my sister's and read the last line again, I hope you'll do what's right for the boy, and felt that old hot shame crawl up my throat. I put it down and made dinner. My son started out to play bass pre-K 3 afternoons a week. The first day, he wore the backpack that's too big for him and held my hand so tight my fingers hurt. At pickup, he ran straight at me and yelled, "Daddy, I painted a tornado." He'd used black and purple and yellow, and the teacher told me he spent a long time mixing the colors and explaining how wind works. On the walk home he asked if tornadoes can suck up grandmas. I said tornadoes can't get inside our house. He seemed satisfied with that. We taped the painting to the fridge, underneath the photo of him and the dog. So, no, it hasn't gone quiet. It's just a different kind of loud forms and courtrooms and passwords and the thud of a big dog lying down in a small room. The best parts are tiny. My son laughing when the dog sneezes. My sister teaching him to stir pancake batter without slopping it everywhere. A neighbor leaving a bag of hand-me-down rain boots on our stairs. Me breathing, and then breathing again. There's still a part of me waiting for the next hit, but there's another part learning that not every knock at the door is a threat. When the name change comes through, I think I'll frame the court order. Not as a victory, exactly, but as proof that we stepped off a track I was certain I couldn't leave. My son asked me last night, very seriously, if our new name will make us superheroes. I told him it won't change who we are. He thought about that, then said, maybe it makes Grandma not know where we live. I said it definitely makes that part easier. He smiled and fell asleep with his hand in the dog's fur. For the first time in a long time, I didn't stand in the doorway watching for something to go wrong. I turned off the hall light and went to bed.